We're glad you're here, and we're about to begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. KenCast After Dark. Stimulating conversations all night long. And here's your host, Ken Cole.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to KenCast After Dark, a very special Friday edition, 1 week before the release of Cobra Kai Season 5. And we're very happy to have you with us. We have news to talk about. We want to hear your comments. We have a new scene that was released today, which was a lot of fun. And I am very pleased to welcome back tonight, yes, the one and only Drew Rohalli from the Last Row podcast. How you doing, Drew?
2 days in a row, man. This is like this is high honor here. I'm so happy to be with you and the amazing audience here. I'm so pumped. I watched that little commercial that came out 1 week away. I'm getting really excited, man.
Oh yeah, I mean that commercial was so good. We're going to talk about that in a second, but for everyone who's watching who doesn't know, and hello to all live viewers and all viewers watching on the replay. This is Drew Rohalli of like one of the absolute best podcasts you could ever listen to about movies, the Last Row podcast. It's a must listen. Drew, tell us a little bit about this podcast.
Thank you first off, thank you for the kind words, and I really appreciate it, the endorsement. I have a podcast. It's a movie podcast with my best friend and co-host Badway. So he's the other brains behind the show, but we do a lot of 80s and 90s movies and really everything, but we tend to skew towards those just because we had a fun time with that. If you weren't with us yesterday, we talked a little bit about the last month we did Predator month. So we just got done doing Predator 1 and Predator 2, where we broke them down in all kinds of fashion. We talked a lot about like, what does a predator smell like? How effective was Danny Glover compared to Arnold Schwarzenegger fighting the predator? We don't really talk about the plot. We just kind of pick apart the random things in the movie, and we have a good time with it. So if you enjoyed that kind of thing, definitely check our show out. Our website's thelastrowpodcast.com, but we're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can find. And I think Ken put a link in the description below.
Yes.
So check it out and definitely let us know what you think. We'd love it if you could subscribe and leave us some comments on our YouTube page or leave us a 5-star review. Thank you guys so much for everyone that really checked us out from this stream and really everywhere else. So thanks, Ken.
Absolutely. Following the Last Row podcast is well worth it. All right, guys, it's great to see you. We're going to say hello. My goodness, guys, great to see you all. Marianella, hi, how you doing? Ben, 1 week away. Yes, indeed. Invisible Observer, great to see you. Ben says, I love that you're going live every night like this. It ramps up the excitement even more. Yeah, I mean, Drew, I think for me too, it's like I'm getting excited just talking to everyone here.
Same here. It's just the energy in the chat that we had yesterday and like today and like really every time. I loved your on location stream too. That was incredible. It was so good.
Yeah, we're going to have to do more on location streams. And so if in the comments, guys, let me know if there's a certain location you want me to stream from. And we might make it happen as long as it has signal. Chris Klotz, good to see you, a member of the channel. Thank you for joining us. What do we have? Kate, great to see you. Zion, Terry Silver's new commercial rocks. This dojo has it all. What's up, y'all? Good to see you, Zion. Great to see you. And thanks for saying that this channel rocks. And speaking of that, Drew, I think we have to take a second. We're saying hi to everyone like Tim and Bryce and all these great people watching. And they really are. Like, I think you said something last night after we got off the air that the people watching this stream, they're just like it's like the best community.
Yeah. I got to tell you, like, and I did, and Ken's not lying about this, by the way. After we got off the stream, I just told him what an awesome community. So I was a fan of this channel, and I've been lucky enough to be able to hang out here with Ken live on the air, and it's an honor. And all the great comments and all the positivity in the chat and just the excitement for the show and just being like good sports and talking to each other. I've met a lot of you guys through this, and thanks for all the kind words and just all the awesome theories and just all the great comments. It's such a fun time to hang out with not only you, Ken, but everyone here, and it's awesome. I love talking to you all.
Yeah, I love it too. It's absolutely, it's become one of the highlights of my day. Absolutely, like every day, just to talk to everyone and just meet you all. Chavi Trumpet, okay, guys, Chavi Trumpet is like, you need to follow his YouTube channel. He comes up with these amazing trumpet covers of all these famous songs, including Karate Kid songs. Definitely follow his channel. Thanks for joining us, Chavi. It's great. NASA, great to see you. Ghost, Marcus, wonderful. Andy, thank you all for the great shows. Thank you guys for being such an incredible audience. Really, really appreciate it. And I know I'm falling behind because you guys have like such great comments. I want to put up Chris. Chris, thank you so much. You're already a member. You'll notice a cool little karate belt next to his name. That means he's a member. But on top of that, thank you for the super chat, Chris. You are such a help supporting this channel. Really appreciate it, guys. Every little bit helps. Watching KenCast After Dark is the best way to count down to season 5. Yes. And guys, we're going to say it now and we'll remind you later. Thursday, we are going to do a live stream marathon. We are going to be counting down to the release of Cobra Kai season 5. We're going to have a great show. Hopefully tons of guests, maybe even some surprise guests. And if you need just buddies to watch something with until you get to Cobra Kai season 5, it's going to be us, right, Drew?
We got you guys. We got you all night long, you know, as Ken said, stimulating conversations all night long. We got you guys. I can't wait. We're going to hang out all night. We're going to talk Cobra Kai, a lot of Terry Silver. Who knows who's going to pop by. It's going to be awesome. I had so much fun doing that with you last year. It was like one of the highlights of my year. And I'm just so excited to do that again. It's going to be awesome. It's
going to be supercharged, guys. If you drink beer, grab some Coors Banquets. I mean, we're going to have fun. We'll play some games. I think we're going to continue the prop bets.
Oh yeah.
I think maybe we'll even have Peter back. So that'll be great. Everyone though, in order to do that, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you might've seen, I tried to tag the Cobra Kai series official Twitter account to get confirmation on when the series releases, because normally it's midnight Pacific, but I think Mary Mauser posted it might be midnight Eastern. And so that obviously affects our party plans. So if you follow me, or if you want to tag Cobra Kai, the official account, or Netflix, if we can get official confirmation from them when it starts, then we'll know when to start our marathon, which will be, I think, 7 hours before release.
Yeah. Last year it was Pacific, right? I think it was, because we went till like 3 a.m. my time, and I was so like excited the whole time. I wasn't even tired.
Right.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's pure adrenaline, guys. It's wonderful. And yeah, NASA says there were discussions about midnight Eastern at one time. Right. And so I want to make sure that we get the time right, because I don't want anyone to be watching the stream and kind of miss the opportunity to go watch the series. So well, Drew, it's Friday in a very active pre-Cobra Kai week. What do you say? Should we dive into some news?
Let's get into it. I'm excited.
All right.
KenCast News.
All right, here we go. Yeah. All right, everyone in the chat, you guys have been talking about this. This is a screenshot from the commercial that was released today. We've seen this shot. We can't play the commercial. It's in the description if you guys want to click on the link and watch it. But this is Terry Silver's, I guess it's a local commercial, kind of talking about like how amazing the new dojo is. They've got like, he's got like protein. They're drinking protein and they're working out.
Organic.
It's like, organic. And this stuff, Drew, reminded me of Rocky 4.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's a fair comparison here?
Yes. And it did feel like a local commercial too. Like for whatever, it's a high budget, obviously, but it had like a local feel. Like I saw somebody write on Twitter, like it was kind of a crappy commercial, but it was like a high budget, like local commercial, if you know what I mean. And it did. It was like all of the stats and the heart rate and the calories burned. It's like that superhuman trainings like montage, which was amazing. And then Terry just looking like the man of the hour, just coming out like, I'm ready to just get up out of my chair and go to Encino and sign up right now. I don't know about you, but it's
I know. And it's interesting that it's Encino, okay? Because obviously Encino is, you know, a more affluent area. You know, that's where the LaRussos live. But it's also the city, the home of the Encino Oaks Country Club. And I know we've speculated before that might be a key location this season, the Encino Oaks Country Club. But if this is a flagship dojo in Encino, you know, Terry himself might be around Encino quite a bit.
Oh yeah, and it's also the home of the caveman that was thawed out, back in the 80s. So I got to drop that,
Yeah,
Encino Man himself,
yes, and
Linkovich Chomovsky. But
I know. Oh, it's been forever since I've seen it, but I have that. I even have the trailer for that playing in my
oh,
head. Encino Man,
the movie's so
Brendan
good.
Fraser, amazing, amazing.
No, but
Um,
you're right. It's an affluent area, and with the LaRussos, like, is this hitting home? Is he trying to really stick it to Daniel? And is this the commercial that we see on the TV when he's standing there with Chosen saying, like, we got to do something?
right.
It was really, it's a targeted thing, right? Terry's trying to take over, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, 100% for it. Everyone check it out. I mean, Drew, we could break it down, but it's kind of one of those things where it's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And there's not necessarily a ton of like story in there. Maybe some characters and stuff. I don't know. Let us know what you think. Definitely check out the commercial. Gabe says best commercial ever. I'm in, sign me up. Yeah, I know. I want to join too. And then Jay Wiggins says the JoJo is even Drago approved. Yes. Josh says even Drago Silver.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of similarities there. They're both like superhuman. They're both machines. Like they, you know.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
100%. Let's see. What is next? Oh yeah. So everyone, I'm gonna bring this up one more time. Drew, Predator 2. You are in Predator month for the Last Row podcast. I know you guys are into probably movies and 80s movies, and the Last Row podcast is the best home for that. This just dropped, right, Drew?
Yeah, this was Thursday. We released our new episode, so yesterday actually, and it's brand new. Go check it out. Like I said, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can check it out. We're also on YouTube as well. We just sort of have the audio. Eventually, we're going to put some videos out there that we'll be doing, and maybe we'll do a live stream or two with Ken and some other folks. But this is our newest episode. It closes out our Predator month. So we did Predator 1 two weeks ago,
Mhm.
and that's the previous episode 112. This is 113. Check it out. I'm not like one to say best episode or anything, but this was a lot of fun. We had a really loose, fun conversation just talking about Predator 2 and just the world of it. And like I mentioned, Danny Glover and the effectiveness of him actually fighting the Predator. We had a pretty detailed, speculated conversation of, is this Predator actually any good if he let, a geriatric cop beat him?
Right.
So we had a lot of fun with this one. So definitely check it out. Let us know what you guys think. We have fun with these movies, and I'm a huge fan of this movie. It's very underrated, in my opinion.
Yes. And you know what I love to do, Drew? I love to get in my car if I have to drive somewhere, and I'm in the LA area, so sometimes I spend some time on the road. I love to jump in my car and I put on the Last Row podcast, and it's kind of fun. It's like being part of the conversation with you guys. It's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah,
That means a lot, man. Thank you so much.
absolutely. Everyone definitely check it out. Eliza says, is Terry Silver's Encino Dojo the one Johnny visited in season 3? They both have juice bars. Oh, you mean like when he was like going around trying to find a location? I don't know.
I think
It,
so. It could be.
it could be.
He's buying up everything, juice
Right.
bar. You got to have a juice bar. They were drinking all that stuff in the commercial, right? And
That's
organic.
right. I love that connection. Good eye. Good eye,
Yeah.
Eliza. That's great. Josh says Terry and Encino with Allie's parents. Ooh. Do you think you'd ever get that interaction between Allie's family and Terry Silver?
He's got to take over everything. Why not? Just another tie to get into Daniel's head, even if he wanted to be with Allie or just some connection. Because think about it, to the general public, I mean, this is a very successful businessman. This is a charismatic leader.
Right.
This is a person that's teaching children how to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And, he's not a bad guy to them. They don't know. So his parents or her parents might actually appreciate Terry and what he's doing for the community.
Yeah. And now that you mention it, Drew, wouldn't that be like kill two birds with one shot? If he goes after Allie, wherever she is, that would make Johnny and
Oh, yeah.
Daniel very upset.
Exactly. And
Wow.
and I don't know that Silver, I mean, Johnny doesn't hate Silver like Daniel does, outside of the fact that he got cheap shotted and beat up in, like, the old dojo there.
Right.
So that, I guess, messed him up pretty bad, but he doesn't have the deep-seated hate for Terry. He, like, really? I mean, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens while he was laying, drunk on the ground with the laptop, but I don't think he has that type of deep-seated, connection or maybe anti-connection with Terry. So I'm curious to see. That would be a great way to do it. To your point, it's a great theory.
Absolutely. And speaking of theories, if you guys are into other characters' theories and how they might be tied into Cobra Kai, including Tom Cole, definitely check out Cobra Kai. If you haven't seen it, there's a link in the description. This is a short film I did with David Shatra, who plays Tom Cole on Cobra Kai. We play cousins in it. If you can make the connections, it's a lot of fun, and it might have something to do with Terry the Big T. So definitely check that out if you haven't. Let's see, what else do we have?
I
Oh,
have to
Drew.
say something real quick.
Oh, okay.
If you haven't watched this, and I'm telling you guys as a fan of this channel and as a fan of Ken Cole here, you need to go watch this. Like, it is so funny and it's so good and it's so well done. And I know Dave Schrock did the director of photography, right? So he
Yes.
was amazing. It looks amazing. It's so good. Go check this out right now if you guys haven't watched it. Bookmark it. Like, I'm waiting for a sequel patiently, but you guys we gotta get a sequel going to this. So I'm petitioning to Ken and all the powers that be. But you guys need to check this out. It's so good.
Thank you, Drew. And yeah, that would be fun. There are ideas for an entire series of these, so so that would be a lot of fun. We'll see. We'll see what we can do sometime. Also, there was a photo, I guess, released today. You know, I guess it's no huge surprise that Miguel's in Mexico in season 5, but I don't know, Drew, what would you say? And everyone watching this, is there anything that we can glean from this photo?
The only thing that I noticed, and I maybe it's in my head, I'm not sure, but does his hair look a lot shorter here than it did in some of the other scenes that we saw in the water park? Now, it could be in my
Ah,
head. I don't have it like side by side, but
yeah,
I thought it looked like his hair was shorter here. So we get sort of a glimpse of the timeline and maybe where this is. I don't know how much time he spends there. I think we speculated a couple episodes, or at least we hoped that it wasn't the whole season. I
right.
don't know if that's me just over analyzing a week out, but that was the one thing that I noticed. And there wasn't much else you could really pull from it outside of he's got a backpack, he's traveling, you know, he looks sort of intrigued by whatever the heck he's seeing, but it could just be a standard promo. But the hair was the thing that stood out to me. And again, maybe I'm over analyzing it. I'm not sure if you noticed it.
Gabe says, Drew, I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Eliza says his hair definitely looks shorter. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right, Drew.
From a timeline perspective, it gives us maybe that hint, but I don't know too much else by this. I mean, I've gone back and forth on the Mexico storyline. Like I've said, I think when we first started talking about this, you know, I don't want like 10 episodes there. And I sort of don't love when they scatter everybody out. I know why they do it. You know, there's narrative reasons for it.
Right.
But I actually am starting to become a little bit more intrigued by this now, more than I was going into it. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the things that we might find out in Mexico and the way that this is handled. So I'm warming up to this a bit more than I was before. I'm not sure if you ever felt that way about this storyline.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It would be an interesting opportunity for Daniel to be alone. I thought
Mhm.
because he might have to deal with Silver on his own, and that would take Johnny and Robbie out of the valley, which would, I guess, be more peril for the LaRussos. But
Sure.
yeah, you know, I'm kind of interested to see what would happen. I think though, like you said, once you're thinking about it a bit more, I've kind of realized that probably whatever Miguel runs into in Mexico, I doubt that it's just going to stay in Mexico.
Right.
I have a feeling that somehow some people he runs into, it could be his father, it could be other people, may leave Mexico and try to follow him back into the valley and could be enmeshed in all of this stuff.
I love where you're going with that because I never thought about that. It's sort of like a Breaking Bad situation where you've got sort of these people connected, and I think it seemed as if there was some type of cartel or some type of criminal element in some of the
Right.
other pictures or the trailer that we saw where there was like a back room thing. Now maybe again, maybe I'm over analyzing it, but I actually would like that because I think it would up the stakes quite a bit and it would say, hey, you can't just leave here and go do all this stuff and there's no consequences to that. So I really like that. I hope that that actually comes true. I think that's a great insight.
Right, because from what we've seen of Mexico, there's fighting, the professional fighters, fighting
Mhm.
rings. I mean, which, you know, hey, that seems to go with Cobra Kai as well. Like, could these people come back and could they pose a threat to Terry Silver's plans or Daniel LaRusso or, you know, what if Miguel doesn't want to leave Mexico, but they kind of pluck him out
Yeah.
and kind of force him to go home back to Carmen, but Miguel would have wanted to stay, but like his father goes after him.
Yeah, well, and that could be maybe the source of the conflict between him and Robbie too, even though we know that they have some bad blood, but
Right,
maybe that adds some fire onto the or some gasoline onto the fire, not to
right.
overuse that thing, but it certainly could be a reason why maybe there's even more conflict than there already was going into the season and where he is add on top of the Johnny dynamic there, which makes it even more interesting. So
Right.
I like that idea if they pull him out and he doesn't want to leave.
Ooh, you know who we haven't talked about yet? Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember at the end of last season, Carmen said that Miguel's father didn't even know that he had a kid. And
That's true.
and she ran away from him. And so I'm wondering if actually Carmen could be the one in peril.
Dude, this is like, you know what this is like? I hate to break it back to another 90s movie here, but this is a kindergarten cop situation. You've got a Cullen
Right.
Crisp on the loose here where you've got
Perfect.
the criminal father and he doesn't know about his son and the mother ran away over to what is it, Astoria up in Washington, and it's a similar situation and maybe he wants to keep him down there. Man, just blew my mind with that, Ken. You just blew my mind with that.
See what happens, guys? It's like we keep talking and we keep coming up with new ideas, and I don't know. We'll see if it's true or not. But I mean, that would also give someone else for Johnny to defend. Would be Carmen against Miguel. But if he's bad, maybe he's not bad. But it sounded like he's bad from what Carmen said.
Yeah, so. Especially based on what she said. Unless she was saying that, but she doesn't seem like someone that would say that just to make him not want to be around his dad. I mean, she's probably a bad dude, like she said.
Yeah, 100% a bad dude. So that's interesting. Okay, guys, let us know what you think, or maybe that's food for thought about Miguel in Mexico. That was fun. That's good. Bryce Production says, Ken Cole, since Dutch is in federal prison, what kind of crimes do you have to commit to go to federal prison? I'm asking because maybe Terry will go to prison at the end of the show and we'll see Dutch. Drew, before we comment on that possibility, I do have to say that is the #1 request I see from fans is for Dutch to come back.
Yeah.
People want that fire from Dutch. They want that kind of character. He had sort of this even more aggressive and personal energy than Mike Barnes. What do you think about this? About
he was unhinged in his own way, right, within the Cobras, and I think he's a very underrated and popular character, and I think it would be awesome to see him back. But and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you mentioned this, but didn't his family say, the actor's family say that like he probably wasn't coming back, or am I misremembering how that went down? I don't recall.
You're right. There was on Instagram, on his account, his daughter posted and basically said, "Thank you for all the interest. This is just to let you know that Chad McQueen will not be appearing in the Cobra Kai series." It sounded pretty definite. I don't know if that was his final decision. I don't know if it's possible for us to make him change his mind, but that would be too bad, obviously. But obviously he has his reasons if he doesn't want to come back.
Around the question, see, this is where I don't know if Badway's in the chat here. We need the Last Row Podcast legal expert, because he is our resident legal expert that gives me all the information about what it takes to go to prison and what the sentences are here. He does all the research. But no, you're right. I mean, going to federal prison, and I don't know if they made it federal prison for a reason to make it so serious that they were like, okay, maybe we can't show him, and it's like to get in there, because I don't know, where is Kreese in federal prison? I don't know that they said. I mean, I guess attempted murder is pretty.
His shirt on the back said, I think it was the California Department of Rehabilitation and Correction.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a state prison.
It could be state prison. So federal attempted murder, pretty bad.
Right.
So I don't know.
Maybe crimes across state lines.
Yeah, there you go. If Terry's going global, so maybe he goes to like some type of war crimes prison or something. I don't know.
Yes. We've got Terry Silver's wife, another member. Thank you. It's not a Tuma.
She knows.
She knows.
You know.
It's a great movie. Wonderful movie. NASA says Kreese is in LA County Jail. So probably much more on a state level. Oh, and NASA also says bank robbery, business crimes, etc. Ooh, so maybe he's in the Terry realm of crime.
That's true. White collar crime. I mean, I don't know if bank robbery is white collar, but maybe stock manipulation or any of those types of things could be federal. So that's a good call. That's a good point.
We were talking about that Instagram post from Chad McQueen, and Ben says that Instagram post is deleted now. So, I wonder. That's interesting.
I wonder, do you think that even if he wasn't going to show up, could the showrunners or the people associated, the PR people,
Right.
urge that to maybe go away just to leave that speculation out there? I think maybe they could influence. I mean, certainly they don't control the account, but
Right.
it would make sense if they try to influence, right?
Maybe so. Yeah, I think you're right. That's very possible that maybe it keeps the hope alive or something like that. Like not to like put a damper on the idea of Dutch because as we can see, Dutch is very important to everyone. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. Maybe they did. Maybe they're like, hey, can you take it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
We
yeah,
we had that sensei with like the bleached blonde hair too, right? So I don't know if
yeah,
that's like an homage to Dutch or if there's I mean, I don't know that color hair doesn't mean that you're related. Here I am speculating on the 6 degrees of separation of everybody, but it is interesting that they did that. I don't it's probably like a callback or something would be my guess.
right. Yeah, I think so. I agree because the similarity is too strong at
Yeah.
100%. Vincent says, "Do you think the takedown of Cobra Kai will last the rest of the show, rest of the series? Maybe the ending is Johnny getting it back." What do you think, Drew?
I think that would be poetic justice for Johnny getting it back, and then, it could be one of these things where and this is gonna sound dramatic, but maybe the whole thing goes down, and then he gets it back, and then he winds up saying, like, "You know what? Keep it. I don't need it." And then he walks away and, like, explosions and all this stuff. I don't know,
Right,
but I think it might be a situation where he does get it back, but maybe he's grown past it, and wouldn't it be poetic for him to say, "I don't need this anymore. I've got my
right,
own thing," and maybe it's Eagle Fang, maybe it's Miyagi Fang, maybe it's, Eagle Doe, whatever we wanna call it.
right,
Who the heck knows? But I think it would show like a true character growth for him to kinda grow beyond Cobra Kai, because when we saw him in the very beginning of the show, he was down and out. I mean, he was
right.
in the gutter, and
Yep,
he got this thing that gave him some hope. It was something that he felt a connection to. He was doing his best to try to instill maybe the same principles with some of these kids without taking it as far as Kreese did,
right.
but then that went sideways and all this stuff went downhill. I could see him getting it back and then just saying, "You know what? Keep it. I don't need it." Like, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I don't
that'd
know.
be kinda cool too. Yeah, you're right. Because, yeah, he's found himself at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I think though, I mean, and this is my biased opinion, of course, that since Terry Silver, as we talked about yesterday, is wanting to go global with Cobra Kai, I really think that Terry Silver should stay in charge of Cobra Kai
I hope
probably
so.
until near the end of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've said this before, and I think you have too. I'm gonna be highly disappointed if Terry goes down, like, very easily this season. I think, especially if they do some crazy thing where he talk about who's gonna die, like, if somebody said, "Oh, this is" like, I wouldn't want the story to go there personally,
mhm,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where this is gonna go. I mean, Hayden and some of the other creators have sort of put some speculation out there. They make people think about things, but I think a cool arc, I think we said this yesterday, would be, like, he's on the rise, and in like a trilogy, right? He's on the rise this past
right.
season. He gets to the top where he is right now, and then maybe the next season is sort of the downfall, but or maybe he just wins and we're all happy here on this channel, so I don't I'll be happy.
Yeah, exactly, that'd be great. You know what? He should win Cobra Kai, and then
Yeah,
Johnny should realize he doesn't need it anymore, and then
yeah.
just kinda walk away. "That's okay, Terry. Yeah, you can dominate. I'm happy. I've got everything I need." Yeah,
I
I
need
don't know
that
if
universe. That's the
yeah,
Miyagi-verse I need, the Terry Silververse.
yes, I like that. Oh, yeah, and we're gonna be getting to that, guys, coming up, so let us know your fans in a bit. Let us know your thoughts in a bit about, what could happen in the Miyagi-verse. Cinema Fan says, "Kreese would be in state prison because the beating of Stingray would be a state crime. A federal crime would be one committed on federal
Ah,
property across state lines or against a federal
thank
official."
you.
Ooh, that's great. Thank you,
Thank
Cinema
you.
Fan. That's wonderful. Okay.
That's good insight.
So
Alright.
so Dutch, I mean, he's doing a good job at the crimes there.
We gotta give him an award.
I know. I do hope we see him.
Me too.
Jamie says, "Hey Ken, just want to let you know I look forward to clicking your videos as soon as I see them, and I love your content, man. Keep it up." Thank you. Thank you so
Alright.
much, guys. That's great. I'm so glad that if I can talk about Cobra Kai, you guys enjoy talking about it too. So
You are one of the best, Ken, and that's no joke. Like, I have notifications turned on. Any video that pops up, I get my notification. You should all turn on your notifications too. Any video that comes out with Ken Cole's name on it, you guys gotta check it out because it's awesome. It's gold.
wow, thank you. I'm humble. I'm right now. I'm very humbled by what you say. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's talk about the next bit of maybe news. I don't know. Drew, I wanted to throw this up here because we were talking about this last night.
Mhm.
It is this idea of Cobra Kai and what it does with Karate Kid Part 3. And this is an article by Gizmodo that kind of talks about that a little bit. And I just want to kind of get your reaction to this article. So, guys, we're going to kind of read through this. Movie fans love to rank their favorite franchises. What's the best Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, blah, blah, blah. The potential list goes on. But one list is absolutely positively never in doubt, definitive. The Karate Kid films ranked. Best is Karate Kid. Second best is Karate Kid Part 2. Third best is Karate Kid Part 3. That's it. No notes. Seriously,
False.
Now, okay, so I'll stop right there.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm getting heated over here, Ken. I'm getting heated.
Talk to me, Drew. Tell me how you feel.
Can you scroll up just a little bit, because
Yeah.
you got to show people the little tagline that they put under there, right? So it says, "How Cobra Kai season 5 recontextualizes Karate Kid 3." But then look at that little stinger, and they had to put that in there. And see,
Yeah.
this is hot take culture. This is hot take culture for you. But the worst original Karate Kid movie, is that necessary? I mean, come on. Like,
yeah. I don't even know if that's objectively true if you
not.
ask movie fans, because I know a lot of people don't like the next Karate Kid. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I look, I get it. It's not everybody's favorite, and that's okay. I think that's fine. But it's not a terrible movie. And let's say this again for the record. It is not a terrible movie. And it's
Right.
okay to like this movie. If you're out there and you're part of our community, like me and Ken, we're the fans of Karate Kid 3. It's okay. You can admit that you like it, right? You don't have
Right.
to hot take it and say it's a crappy movie. It's a good movie, right? It's not the best, but it's very good, and it's okay to like it. I just need to
Right.
everyone needs to be okay with that. We need to put that out there. We
Yeah,
need to
Drew,
say that.
I think I share your passion, Drew. I think you're totally right. Robana says it's a cult classic.
Yes.
And we had a long discussion about this, about the fact that Karate Kid 3, the first one, is a classic, but Karate Kid 3 has become a cult classic.
Yes.
And people, I think, need to realize that. Okay, let's keep going on, because I have a feeling there will be more to talk about. Okay, now here they quote from an interview with Thomas Ian Griffith, and I'll quote, "I'm the first to say Karate Kid Part 3 is not a good film." Thomas Ian Griffin.
Griffin.
Griffin,
Who's that?
come on.
Who is
Oh,
that?
Come on. Come on, Gizmodo, who plays the film's villain, Terry Silver said. And then he goes on, and Macchio says, and we know that Ralph Macchio is not a fan of Karate Kid Part 3. But he says, even the shortcomings of this franchise bear fruit going forward. Early on, my first meeting with John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg, who created the show, they were talking about the potential of Terry Silver in the distance. Great. That's why they're geniuses, guys. That is absolutely why they're geniuses. And Mike Barnes and all this stuff, if it ever got up in the air. That was like the last time they saw the Karate Kid, right? I mean, it's the last time and I think this is another typo. I think he meant that's the last time they saw Daniel. That's the last time we saw Daniel was in Karate Kid 3. So it means something to them. And that sort of heightened element of what Karate Kid Part 3 has been brought forth into the Cobra Kai's heightened tone. Okay, so right here, you have, this is a backdoor admission from Ralph Macchio that there is some good stuff in Karate Kid 3. I mean, I think we're getting to that point, right?
Yeah. When they say Thomas Ian Griffin, like,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like Tig wearing the glasses with like the nose and the mustache on it. It's like that's his alter ego. Like, he's out there like Thomas Ian Griffin. Like, who is that? Come on, guys. Gizmodo. Like, I'm not gonna dump on people, but come on. Like,
Right.
It's not like some random guy. Like,
yeah. I was an instant Thomas Ian Griffith fan. Jay Wiggins says, is Tom Griffin related to Peter Griffin, Gizmodo?
That's what I'm saying, Jay. Come on.
Thomas Ian Griffith is the 90% of Karate Kid 3. Yes. And, I just have to say this, guys. I'm going to play it right now if Gizmodo's watching. Watch this. Here it is.
KenCast Thomas Ian Griffith.
He's an amazing actor. You do not screw up his name. Okay.
I know. Come on, guys. Let's get with it.
Sorry. Yeah. I don't want this to be too negative, but I think we can, have fun. They're wanting to poke a little at Karate Kid 3. So I think if
poke
you're going to
back.
do that, you can't be sloppy about it.
Oh.
So yeah, basically this keeps on going on and on. But I think they misquoted Thomas Ian Griffith too, because in the quote yesterday, he said, "I'm not the first to say that Karate Kid Part 3 is not a good film." But here he says, "I'm the first to say."
Yeah.
It's probably silly. I mean,
And
I
like,
know we can't change everyone's mind.
well, and objectively, look, I've said it before, and I was passionate about it before, but I'll take a step back and I'll put my logic hat on, right? And I get it. Like, as people have said, maybe in the chat, some folks have made some really good comments. Like, if you're not a Terry Silver fan, you probably don't like Karate Kid 3, or maybe it doesn't appeal to you. But I don't think it's bad. Like, it's not a bad movie. Maybe it didn't further the arc, but objectively as a film, like, it
Right.
has a clear story. It's competently made.
Right.
It's got good acting. Like, there's a lot of worse movies out there that I've seen that you could say are pretty bad. I mean, has anyone watched the Power Rangers movie? Like, that's a bad movie. I still like it, but that's a pretty bad movie when you look at that, right? Like,
Right.
it's just, I don't know. I still enjoy it, but this movie is nowhere near that level. And I think when you have an actor of the caliber of Thomas Ian Griffith, not in,
Right.
whenever I want his alter ego, I'm gonna go Griffin. But and I think Terry Silver's wife says this. He also has his own theme song in this movie, which is
Mhm.
another nice touch. Like, the score is awesome for this.
Yes.
So it is one of the best scores. So look, I'm a fan. Everyone knows that by now, but I just feel like there's this constant like dumping on the movie to hype up the other stuff. And I think some other folks said it here in this chat. You wouldn't have Cobra Kai if it wasn't for that movie. Let's be serious. Like, they were kind of going towards that. And I'm glad that Hayden, Josh, and John had that in mind when it came to where they wanted to go with the story, because it did up the stakes. And,
Right.
if you just ended with Kreese, like, okay, that could be pretty cool, but how do you make it even further? And they're
Right.
taking what Karate Kid 3 did, and they're taking it to another level, and they're adding some nuance, and they're adding some interesting backstory here. But I think without that movie, you wouldn't have where this series is going, and we got to give it credit for that. And we've said this too, the way that movie came together, that they just created this character out of thin air, and it became such a fun character for so many people. It's a Bond villain, and
Right.
you don't get that in a lot of ways. It's serendipitous how that thing came together. So I'm really passionate about this, if you guys can't tell. So I'm gonna step back for a second, because I might like jump out of my chair right now.
Drew, that's okay. It's okay to jump out of your chair here on KenCast. It's great. Lupos agrees. Less good than Karate Kid 1 is not equal to bad.
Totally agree.
And that's what I mean, Drew, you and I, we've talked about this movie for a long time. If people were to ask us, like, why isn't Karate Kid 3 revered like the first one, we could probably give a long, detailed reasons why. I mean, we know the movie well. We know it's not Academy Award winning, but it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. And
Totally.
something that you and Badway said on the last our podcast is that they just don't make movies like this anymore.
No, they don't. And I'm an old man when it comes to me saying that, but they don't make them like that. Like, you can't. There's a time and a place, and there's a simplicity of the plot with also some nuance to it, where everything, now we talked about the cinematic universe, everything's connected to everything. Like, this is a pretty simple story, but it also had some pretty high stakes. And to me, that's like the kind of movie I want to watch. It's a fun movie, but it's also serious. It has some comedy. We got mac and cheese in there and all that stuff, as Chris would say.
Yes.
Shout out to Chris. But there's a lot of fun things from it, and a lot of things that you can appreciate about it too. So they really don't make them like they used to. They really don't.
Yes. And Ben says, when I met Ralph, I asked him what it was like to work with Thomas Ian Griffith again since Karate Kid 3. He said he was amazing. Yeah, and he said that through interviews now, and it's great. It's cool to see him enjoying that. David says, I think the core concept of Karate Kid 3 was pretty good. I also think that people didn't like it because those core concepts weren't developed fully, and Cobra Kai seems to be striving to do it. Yeah, I could see that. Like, there's a lot that I enjoy, Drew, about Terry Silver's sort of nuanced middle section, where he's sort of conning Daniel. And you almost get the feeling, when I watch the movie, I almost get the feeling that Terry's almost convinced, like, what would have happened if Daniel was convinced to go with Terry Silver. Like,
Yeah.
you almost get the feeling that they were kind of getting along well. Like, what would have happened if Daniel would be like, Terry, I think I'm done with Mr. Miyagi. I think you're the better way to go. I
Yeah.
mean, you almost get that bond there. And what if that section was developed a bit more,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah, well, would be interesting if we get a parallel to that this season, like, maybe his daughter winds up doing that, and maybe she winds up like, we speculated the other day when we were
yes,
chatting about this, like, I like that, right? Because, yes, Terry is terrorizing teenagers. Yes, he is dumping toxic waste. Yes, he is doing some maybe controversial things, but he cares, darn it. He cares
right,
about what he's doing, and he believes in it, and I think, you got the charisma. This is why people go for these leaders, and when you look at him, like, how can you not wanna follow this dude? And, yes, he's got some interesting methods. I mean, the Quicksilver method is controversial, but it kinda works, doesn't it? It
right.
kinda works. It's successful, and it's not a kata. I know it's a little bit aggressive, but I think Daniel could have learned a lot more from Terry. I know Terry was terrorizing him, but imagine if Terry wasn't trying to terrorize him and he actually wanted him on his side and it wasn't
Right,
just to mess with him. Like, he
right,
could have really we saw how good Daniel was. He could have turned him into an extreme fighter. Maybe he'd have been even better than Barnes if he actually trained him, instead
right.
of mess with him. Would have been interesting.
That almost would be like a multi-movie arc maybe for
Oh, heck
him,
yeah.
like going over to train, like, legitimately with someone else, and
Yeah.
then at some point he'd need to realize that he needed to be with Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
Zion says it's the best movie of the series. Lesson is to watch who you trust. That's right. Jay says it's Barnes is the best bully too.
Yes.
Kate Maloney, channel member. Thank you, Kate. Well, it didn't help that Robin Lively had no chemistry with Ralph. She did have chemistry with Pat Morita, though. The editing was horrible, like it was rushed. It should have been a fall release. Great point. This was
Mhm.
released in an epic summer. And Drew, we talked about that actually, the summer of 89. It
89.
was one of the craziest years for movie sequels. And they just jammed it right into that
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it, and Kate, your point is right, and the Robin Lively piece is true. It was weird. It was like this weird sort of like romantic, but not really romantic situation, and I don't remember if we said this on our Ballad of Terry Silver, but I think we said, like, there was no like, "Why did you have this in here?" It didn't need to
Right.
be in there, and it's almost like they wanted to recapture the alley stuff and the Kumiko stuff, and then it just felt kinda weird, and her actual age makes it kinda creepy too, because when she was filming this, I think she was, like, pretty young, right, compared to Ralph, and
Yes.
that was also some controversy as well, so I think, Kate, you raised a lot of really good points there, and the fall release would have been also important because, yeah, we had that awesome discussion about the '89 sequels, and
Right.
there's so many movies that year. That didn't help it, I think.
Yeah, and if they released it in the fall, there wouldn't have been much competition. I think it could have done quite a bit better.
Yeah.
NASA says, considering the mess it could have been if Sean Kanan had been replaced due to his hospitalization during filming, Karate Kid 3 is great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this was in my interview with Sensei William Christopher Ford, who played Dennis in Karate Kid 3, but he said that when Sean Kanan was in the hospital, they didn't know whether he was going to come back. They brought in Brandon Lee
Oh my
to
god.
play to talk about playing Mike Barnes, and he was on set and he met Sensei Ford and everything like that.
My
I
god.
mean, yeah, so Brandon Lee was, and I think they threatened Sean Kanan with that, and they said, if you don't come back in a week, even though he was like almost dead in the hospital, if you don't come back, Brandon Lee is going to get your part. And but I think, if I'm allowed to say this, I think what Sensei Ford said was that Brandon Lee actually he was smoking a lot,
Oh,
and Pat Johnson at that point wasn't actually too impressed with his martial arts skills,
wow.
and he
Man,
was
that's
really
crazy.
young. He was really young at that
Yeah,
point. Well,
that's
young
crazy.
during his career. Yeah,
I love Brandon Lee. Tragic The Crow is an awesome underrated film, and the
right.
tragedy that happened on that is nuts. But you know what's funny? Like, and actually, this is a callback to what we talked about on our first Predator episode when we did our Predator month for Predator '87. There was like
Mhm.
a similar story to Van Damme. Like, Van Damme was apparently going to be the Predator, and
Wow.
there's this whole thing about we talked about it in the episode, but they said that he kept like passing out in the costume because it was so hot, and like all of a sudden the costume looked like garbage. But like there's this funny quote that said something like, if you pass out one more time, you're fired. It's like, oh, let me just stop passing out. Okay. Like get out of the hospital and get back in this movie. Like, okay. Come on,
Right.
guys.
It's like that's not physically possible.
Yeah.
Bamboo Grove, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. That really helps the channel. Thank you, Bamboo Grove. Appreciate it. Robert Hustwick says, when I saw the first few episodes of Cobra Kai, I was worried that they'd ignore part 3. Me too. I
agree.
cheered when they mentioned Terry's name during the hearing. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Because it would have been so easy. And watch, guys, in the future, I swear it's coming. I just got jam-packed with work for this Cobra Kai premiere, but I've got this comparison video between Star Wars and Cobra Kai. It's a deep analysis video, actually, and that is one reason I was worried that, you know, they would forget about Karate Kid Part 3, but they didn't.
Yeah.
You know, which is great. Ostro 1980, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, guys. Every Karate Kid movie ends with a final fight. Should Cobra Kai? Drew?
Man, like who would it be? That would be the question, right? I guess I'm imagining like, I don't know, like a Gareth Evans, just like raid style, like crazy fight with all of the guys. But it probably would be, I mean, it's got to be Daniel and Johnny teaming up against maybe Kreese and Silver in some capacity, even though they're not together anymore in terms of friendship. But man, I don't know who it would be. I mean, I think it should, I guess, to answer your question, it should, but I don't know who it would be. Like, who would you want to see in that final fight? There's so many options.
Gosh, I don't even know, because now we're having new characters like Kim Da-eun who are entering the series. What is she going to do? Obviously, I'd love to see Terry Silver in that final battle.
Yeah.
You bring up John Kreese. Do you think it's possible Kreese could get out of prison and still eventually go back and side with Terry Silver again?
I think it could, and it would be a nice little twist there, wouldn't it? Because maybe there's some way where like Terry's like, I did it for your own good, John. You needed this, and Terry is a master manipulator. He might manipulate him into thinking that it was for his own good.
Right.
I don't think it'll happen just because it was such a serious offense. I mean, that's like the number 1 violation, sending your best friend to prison for a crime he didn't commit. It's kind of serious.
Right.
I don't know how you go back from there, but
like,
but I mean, it would be cool. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing them team up again. And then he realizes like his place was number 2 and Terry was number 1, because they had it flipped the other way, and that's why it happened. That would be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing them back together.
Yeah, I know. They make such a good team. You know, when they're in a good relationship with each other. Claude Leon, thank you so much for the super sticker. Claude Leon's also a channel member. Thank you for that. Appreciate your support. Wayne said Robin Lively lied about her age, and so writers decide to make her just friends with Daniel. You know, I would love to get more information on exactly what happened there, because you bring up a really good point. Did she lie? I knew that she was under 18, and that might have been why Ralph Macchio was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do love scenes with you know, because I'm well into my 20s, you know, at that point.
But doesn't that bring up the point that, I know you and I have talked about this before, but like, where are the special features for this? Like, there's so much. Like, I got more out of the making of Karate Kid 3 from your interview with Sensei Ford than I've seen anywhere. And it was amazing. So if you guys haven't seen the interviews that Ken did with Sensei Ford, go watch them, because they're awesome. Like, he gives such an awesome like account of the movie, and he's just a genuinely awesome person. So you guys should definitely check that out. But like, I learned so much just about making of the movie through that, and there's no like DVD special features that I'm aware of.
Right.
Really, and it's the perfect movie where you could learn more about, because of the stories about how it was made. I mean, we need more. Like, we have to petition Sony, you know, we need to petition them, because we need more stuff. I need to know.
I know. I'm hoping at this point they still released a bare bones in their latest great deluxe box set. It's still a bare bones release of Karate Kid Part 3. So I'm hoping with the success of Cobra Kai, they'll go back and maybe do re-releases of all the movies with a ton of new special features. Because for the second movie, they even had it sounded like a Zoom call between Ralph Macchio and Tamlin Tomita on Karate Kid 2. And you could do that. You could sit down like we're doing right now, play the movie for everyone. They could do it at home, and they could just talk about the movie. It wouldn't be too hard to do that.
Yeah, we need it. We really need it.
Yeah. Melissa, good to see you, Melissa. Imagine if we get flashbacks of Silver as a child, his home life and his relationship with his parents, and discover why he took so well to Master Kim's tactics more than Kreese did.
Mm-hmm.
I'd
Yeah.
love to see that.
That would be awesome. I mean, we got a little bit, right? Because I think that we saw, if you remember them in the tattoo parlor from the previous season when they were getting the tattoos and Kreese wanted to start Cobra Kai and Terry he was conflicted because he needed to go to the business that his dad was saying, right? And that's what they were talking about. I loved that. Like, I thought that was so cool. And we've also talked about spinning off the show. Like, I would love to see a young Terry and young Kreese show. Like,
Mhm.
I would love that because and same with this, what Melissa's saying, like, it would be cool to see why Terry is the way that he is. Like, it could be self-esteem issues. It could be emotional abuse from his parents. Like, maybe he was feeling like he wasn't good enough and he had to have everything to impress his parents. Like, it's certainly a possibility. And I think that would be awesome. Like, if they build that part of the character out and it's not just some silly, cheesy Bond villain, which I'm okay with too, but
Right.
I like the backstory that they're giving us.
Right. And from that scene that we saw with Chosen saying that this way of the fist, the style that Kim Sun Young taught, was no honor and no mercy, it's almost like Terry Silver is more into that than John Kreese, because I don't know if I could see John Kreese putting Terry Silver, framing him and putting him in prison for attempted murder. And, it's almost like Terry Silver really took what Master Kim said to heart about deception and everything like that. So how did he get like that? Yeah, I think that's a great thing. Terry Silver's wife, channel member. Thank you, Terry Silver's wife. We're always glad to have you with us. How do you think Karate Kid 3 would have played out if Kumiko had come to California like she was originally planning?
It would have been interesting because the Robin Lively plot would have been completely different or maybe non-existent. And maybe Daniel would have had, I don't know if, because that movie was a little bit more about his sort of like love and sort of like paternal affection for Mr. Miyagi. So, and when you take the love story out with Robin Lively's character, it was more about that bond between Miyagi and Daniel. So
Mhm.
I think it would be interesting. It's almost like there would be too much going on in that way. So maybe I'm sort of walking back what I said before about the Robin Lively love story, but Kumiko, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because it would
Yeah.
give him something more to fight for, and maybe Terry would have terrorized her
Right.
specifically, and there would have been more of a very specific, almost like hit on trying to get her taken out.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what we'll see with Amanda coming up in this new season, and maybe it's sort of a similar parallel, but man, that's an interesting point. I think that's a really good question. I really don't know.
Yeah, it would have been a completely different movie. And Yukie also, I think,
Yeah.
wanted to come with Miyagi. So I think that's one of the things, people talk about. We appreciate the movie, but yeah, we can admit it's like it almost seemed
Sure.
like they kind of skipped that. And it seemed like, oh, this is gonna be perfect. You're gonna have Kumiko and Yukie. They're gonna come with Miyagi and they'll be there. But they kind of just decided not to do
Yeah.
that. I don't know. Cloud Leon said, I wanted to say to Drew that back in the day, watching Karate Kid 3, I almost wish the fake facade Terry Silver that befriends Daniel LaRusso was real.
Me too.
The facade seemed like such a nice person. Tragic. That's what I love about Thomas Ian Griffith,
Yeah.
Drew, is he sold it like he was a really good guy for a while.
Yeah. I mean, some of my favorite scenes, Cloud, are like the whole him driving the pickup truck, like him picking up the pickup truck. Hey, nice truck, Mr. Silver. Like him going to Miyagi-Do
Yes.
in the back of the dojo there and hanging out, and he's apologizing for John Kreese's actions, and he died, and just he seemed like a cool dude hanging out with him at the what is it, the dance club or whatever, we at the nightclub and all
Yes.
that stuff. And like, I wouldn't mind having that guy as a friend. He
Right.
seemed like a nice guy.
Yep.
I think you're right.
Yep.
Maybe
Yep.
that's why I like him so much, because like I can see both sides of him in both shades, right? It's not just this evil dude that's trying to mess with a teenager, which is funny in itself, but it's also a nice guy in a way, right? I don't know
Right.
if you feel the same.
I do. And when going back and say, like, looking at the movie and analyzing it, you realize that part of the movie was like kind of in the last third. It's
Sure.
actually kind of amazing how compressed that part of the story is in the movie. And I wish there was more of that it developed over time. And what you were saying earlier, Drew, though, is that we might see that this season with Samantha. Maybe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do, because I think it would be an interesting dynamic, and she might be like, oh, my dad's crazy. This guy's not so bad. He's a nice guy. Look at him. He's trying to do something for the valley. Like, imagine if he did that and he could pull
Right.
out all the stops, and because he can turn that charm on like that, you know? I mean,
Right.
you saw him giving, what is it, Amanda the glass of wine. It's like,
Right.
hey, this guy's not so bad. This happened when you were a teenager, dad, whatever, right? Every
Right.
teenage girl knows better than their dad, or teenager
Right.
knows better than their parents. It's like, they don't know what they're talking about. This guy's nice, you know, and maybe
Right.
she'll fall for it. It would be an interesting thing.
Well, it'd be interesting if Terry were to tell her things about her dad
Yeah.
that she didn't know,
Oh,
and be like, I know it's tough for you because Daniel's like this, but you got to remember, that sort of like turning her against him, that you shouldn't listen to him, you shouldn't look up to him because he's got problems.
dude, I love
Um,
that. That's a
yeah,
great point. That is a
yeah.
great point.
Terry's the master. Cobra Disney Jedi says, "Good to see you. I wonder if Mike Barnes is married to Jessica." I mean, anything's possible, right?
Can you marry someone who kicks you in the stomach? Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's like, but no, I've seen people speculate on that too, and it would be interesting. It would be. He had to make up for it.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I want to bring up, because this is kind of where we kind of got the idea for the thumbnail and what we were supposed to be doing tonight, is this idea of the Miyagi-verse. Okay, so I want to at least get to this so we can talk about it. So this is comicbook.com. This is an article. Cobra Kai star Ralph Macchio reveals Karate Kid's cinematic universe plan with origins, prequels, and spin-offs. So first, before we go into this, Drew, I mean, what do you think about this?
This is an interesting one because I like this, but there becomes, and I've said this about Star Wars before too. It's like sometimes too much of a good thing is turns it bad. So
Right.
it has to be done right. And I think like you start to oversaturate with certain things. So I think part of why this show works well is because it ties you back to these legacy characters that everyone has a connection to, but it also introduces a new set of characters that it balances very well, that connects maybe newer fans of the series that hadn't watched those movies back in the day. Like I know a lot of people, that have seen the show that really haven't connected with the original films, and they're like, "Oh, this is a great show." They just like it. Or
Mhm.
there's opposite, right? And I've liked the films and I've liked the show, but it depends on what they're going to do when they go with this broader cinematic universe. Now, if they start to make something like a prequel, right, that builds up like a Mr. Miyagi prequel, I think that could be really cool because it would give you insight into a character that you care about.
Mhm.
Same thing with like a spinoff with like maybe young Terry and young Kreese. The actors have already proven that they've done a great job with that in some of the flashbacks. Give us more of that. That would be really great. But
Right.
if they start spinning off like random characters and things that maybe people don't have as much of a connection with, I think you're borderline going to start doing too much. And then it becomes do we really need this? So I think it's got to be done right. And it's got to be done delicately. Like I trust the people in charge of this show because they've done such a good job with this. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'll be excited about it because I think they've done a good job with this. So I'll
Right.
trust where they're going to go with it. But I think it's a delicate line. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
Yeah, I do. I first off, I totally agree. I mean, John, Josh, and Hayden, all the creators, the
Yeah,
writers, actor, everyone involved, from Ralph Macchio to William Zabka to
they're
Thomas and
amazing.
Griffith, they're amazing. They know what they're doing. In general, prequels tend to be tough. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen the new House of the Dragon series yet. They're the episodes. That's based on George
Sure.
R.R. Martin's work, so that's maybe a little different. But it's very rare that a prequel works.
Mhm.
Better Call Saul, I thought, was a great prequel to Breaking Bad, and I thought that was kind of a very interesting exception. And I think you have to do it just right to get a prequel right, because you know what's going to happen with the character.
Mhm.
A young Mr. Miyagi could be interesting because there's a lot there that we don't know. And the way these, as we've said before, the way this series Cobra Kai is structured, it's not really based or hinging on the idea of someone dying, whether they're going to live or die.
Sure.
So that won't be the stakes, I don't think, in a young Mr. Miyagi series. And that could be very interesting because they have like a blank slate. They can kind of do what they want. Yeah, but I agree with you. It's going to be tough. Like, I think you have to find the right actor
Yeah.
because it was such a singular performance from Pat Morita. And then you also have to develop great characters that surround him. And as you're saying, Drew, with Cobra Kai, the benefit is that you have all these characters that you're tied to that the previous fans love already, and that makes it easier to get into it. And then you can add these new characters into the mix, and then you become fans of everyone. And so maybe with a prequel or a spinoff, if there are too many new characters or characters that we don't connect with right off, I don't know. There are probably all kinds of perils, but I think we have to come back to the fact that, I mean, John, Josh, and Hayden, they are great. They know what they're doing. And if I'm sure that once they had an idea for this series, their minds were firing about like all these other ideas. And so I want to see them. Anything that they do, I want to see.
Yeah, if they're involved, like I trust it. I mean, they can do no wrong at this point. Like they've been really doing a great job with this, and you got to give them a lot of credit, because when people said, "Oh, they're like," because they were starting to reboot everything and redo everything, and I think we've talked about this, like reboots versus sort of legacy sequels versus other stuff. Like I was saying, I think a long time ago on this show, something about like I tried to watch that Saved by the Bell reboot, and I just couldn't get into it. Like there was nothing that really, like, I don't know, I didn't really like it that much. But the second I fired this show up, like it just got me. Like the Johnny Lawrence storyline was so intriguing to me, and it was so compelling. Like you had this guy that went through hell. Like you couldn't tell why. You didn't know what was going on, right? You knew what happened in Karate Kid 1, and then there was all those fan theories that and all the stuff that people put out about, Ralph being the real bully and all that. And this sort of validated that in a way, but they did it in such a grounded way, man. And I got to give them so much respect for the way that and we said it before, they respect the older fans that have been around for a while and watched this, and they've brought along newer fans that didn't know a lot of that stuff, and they've introduced some really cool and compelling characters like Sam, Miguel, like Robbie. Like it's harder for me to connect with newer characters when it's such a important like legacy series, but I thought they did a pretty good job with that, and they found a way to do it that made narrative sense. They didn't just dump a bunch of random people in here. There was very serious and specific reasons for these people doing what they're doing, and they deserve all the praise that they're getting with this show. Not a lot of people can do that. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, and they've really proven that they can knock this out of the park. So, not many shows get 5 seasons in and they get better. A lot of things start to fall off, and this has progressively gotten better every single season. So I'm just excited to see where it goes, and I hope they renew it for more. So anyway,
that's very well said. I totally agree. Lupo Music says, I demand a Cobra Kai entire movie or series as a spinoff.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. Actually, I've got the whole story in mind. We'll see. I think Sony would have to approve that one, because if we were to do that, I'd love to have other characters you might know about be included as well. So
start the petition now, everybody.
Yeah, please. Start it now. It's Josh says Cobra Kai is Miyagi-verse because Mr. Cole appears. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one interesting thing for me too, is obviously not just Tom Cole, but Willie Cole.
Yeah.
And who is Willie Cole? And who are the Coles? And I'm a Cole, and how did they tie into Terry Silver and all his big dealings? And so anyway, that would be fun to explore.
I did tell you it was a documentary. It's not a movie, it's a documentary. So
That's right. Wild Mind Beyond, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for your support. Next week, it's the final countdown. It is, Drew. It is the final countdown. So thank you for joining us, Wild Man Beyond, and everyone else, because we're talking about potential spinoffs here, just trying to kill time, trying to stay hyped here.
If we wouldn't get flagged for copyright, we'd be playing the Europe music right now, the final countdown. So we got to put that on there.
Yes, indeed. Guys, I have the link to this interview down below. Definitely check it out. It's a great interview. I think Ralph Macchio basically says the same thing, that it's like a big universe, that they have all these ideas. William Zabka, says in this interview that, almost half jokingly, I can't tell if he's being straight or not, but he's saying that once the series ends, there'll be a trilogy of movies. And he kind of says it with a smile, so I don't know if he's serious or not. But what do you have a feeling, Drew, on the idea of the series ending, or the series being cut off and then going into like a trilogy of movies?
So I've seen I think there's a show that I was watching. It's based on some novels called The Expanse, and then it was on, I think, Sci-Fi Channel for a long time, and then they put it on Amazon, and then they ended it. And there's still a couple more books that they could adapt. But I had read that, oh, they might end that with a series of movies, right? Maybe, maybe not. And then I think what was that show a long time ago? Firefly, and then it got a movie
Yes.
called Serendipity.
Right.
I wasn't really a huge like watcher of that, but I had seen the movie. It's interesting because this would be bookended by it would be bookended on both sides, right, with the
Right.
trilogies, which would be poetic and kind of interesting because you'd have the movies that started it, then you'd have the series in the middle, and then you'd have the movies at the end. I don't know if, making movies at the end means that, hey, well, they canceled the show, so then they had to find somebody to finance because
Right.
it seems like shows are more expensive to make than the movies sometimes in some ways because of the marketing, the timing that you've got to do. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that. You know way better than me because you've been part of the business. But I wouldn't mind it. I think it would be interesting, but I think you said this on one of your shows that I was watching. I like the show because it gives more room to breathe, and there's
Yeah.
more room for the stories to maybe marinate a little bit and for some things to be built out. You have an hour and a half movie or, maybe a 2-hour movie, whereas the show is, I don't know, I guess it's a half-hour show, so it winds up being about 5 hours. You got a
Mhm.
season. But that's what I like about the TV aspect of it. They can do a little bit more, and because the episode ends, you can have these like little cliffhangers. And this show is designed to be binged.
Right.
So, the cliffhanger is not really a cliffhanger, you just hit next.
Right.
But I think it would be an interesting way to go with this, and I agree with you. I don't know if he was joking or not. It was really hard to tell because he
Right.
had that smirk about him, and I was like, "Is he kidding?" And the interviewer
Yeah.
didn't know what to do either. He was kinda like,
Right.
"What?" Do you think he was joking?
Maybe he wasn't, but he was trying to maybe smile it off in a way,
Yeah,
maybe so he's not saying anything too certainly. Because who knows if that would be greenlit or not. So maybe he
yeah.
doesn't wanna be too, emphatic about that. But I think there's an idea to do something like that.
Mhm.
I think for me, this series, as you mentioned, there's so much like it could be longer. Each episode could be longer. There's so much story to tell. There's so many great characters. And to me, the idea, I'm all for movies. If you want to make more Cobra Kai, definitely go to it. But once the series ends, if we go into movies, look at, for instance, I don't know, Breaking Bad, for instance. They had a movie,
Mhm. El
after that.
Camino, right?
El
Yeah.
Camino, it was almost kind of like an epilogue, and it was good, but it was kind of non-essential. And
Yes.
just because there's only just so much story you can tell there compared to a whole series.
Right.
And I don't know, my wife's a big fan of Downton Abbey, and that's a similar show in that it's kind of sprawling. It has so many characters, and then they made two movies, and we saw those, and those movies were good and they were fine. But I think you come away going like, oh man, there just wasn't enough time to see what each character was up to like you could in the series.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I would hope that they just don't, kind of like what you said, don't cut it off due to financing or
Right.
anything like that. Don't finish the story in the movies. Kind of finish what you're going to do and then
Yes.
maybe do a new story in the movies.
That's spot on, and I think you're right because if you end it early, then you're just like, we're waiting for the movies, maybe they don't get financed, and then it's
Right.
like there's this weird cliffhanger. Like, I totally agree with you. Finish the story that you wanna tell here, and then use those to maybe supplement it or do a Young Kreese and Silver movie. Like,
Right.
that's a cool movie. You could stand alone, you don't have to watch it, it's not essential, like what you said. I love
Right.
the way you put that. You nailed it. I totally agree.
Yeah, I'm excited though. Like I love the idea. If they have inspiration to do any of this stuff, I mean, I'm there. I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch it through.
same.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
I'd love even more Broadway musicals.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I think we might have Chris in a second. Let me just get
All
this from
right.
Wildman Beyond. 4.99. Thank you so much. The franchise that has followed the nostalgic effect of Cobra Kai is Top Gun. Yeah, and in this interview, they mentioned Top Gun as well. Ghostbusters Afterlife was partly with me. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Wildman. Yeah, I agree. It's like this idea of legacy sequels. And let me bring in Chris Maffei. Good to
Hey,
see you,
there he
Chris.
is.
Hey
There he
guys, I
is.
am so sorry. I just got my internet back, and if I disappear, you'll know why.
But Terry Silver got you. That's what happened.
That's right.
Terry's been on to me. He knows that I haven't been as high on him as you guys are. So he's keeping me in check. But
Cut
I
your
was
internet.
so bummed that I missed most of this, and you guys are probably just wrapping up. But I just wanted to pop in, even just to say hey, because yeah, I've been looking forward to this all day. But I caught the tail end of what you guys were talking about there.
Yeah.
I think Ralph might have been joking about
Okay.
about all of that. I really do. But yeah, no, super happy to be back on here, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Sure. Yeah, it's great to have you, Chris. Yes. Do you have any thoughts of Wildman brought up this idea of legacy sequels? Top Gun did a great job. I don't know if you saw Top Gun, but obviously we agree they did an amazing job with Cobra Kai. But what do you think about this idea of prequels and spin-offs and sequels and that type of thing?
I'm all for it. I'm all for it, as with the stipulation that it has to be either the big three or someone approved by the big three or Robert Mark Kamen.
Right.
And as long as there's a story to tell, I think that anything they want to do in the realm of spin-off, especially like a limited type of spin-off, not something that needs to outstay its welcome, or a movie that kind of stands on its own. Hey, Rabana. Hello, Terry. Yeah, anything that stands on its own, I think, and isn't necessarily beholden to Cobra Kai necessarily. Anything that's within the universe that kind of justifies its own existence, I'd say I'm all for, even if it's kind of maybe a spin-off of
Right.
Cobra Kai, but it's still kind of its own thing, but still continues the world. I would be really interested in going back versus continuing in maybe a present day setting. I'd love to see them go back to maybe the 70s or very early 80s with Kreese and Terry. I would love to see maybe young Miyagi, or even explore even deeper roots of Miyagi-Do. I know Kamen would probably be all over that. So if he finally gets his movie that he wanted to make instead of Karate Kid 3, I think that would be really fun.
Right.
I'm all for it. Like, what do you guys think?
Oh yeah.
I totally agree. We've got some ideas in the comments too. Zion said yes, Miyagi in the 442nd. That would be interesting. Robana says Terry and Kreese in Vietnam. Also, Terry, I would love a movie or a TV series of Silver and Kreese. Yes.
Yeah.
And and I'll share this just therapeutically for myself to keep myself sane. I wrote an outline for a Terry Silver series.
Yes.
But I would love to see something like that too.
We need that published, by the way.
Yes.
I like someone in the chat here. A couple of people said Margaret and Milos, Life in the Ennis house. That's
I gotta find
good.
That.
Yeah,
that's a great comment.
Yeah, that is really good. Yeah,
Josh,
Rabana and Josh.
There it is.
Yes,
that's the show we really need. I need that show in my life. Like,
yes.
Who are they bribing today? Let's see.
Right.
Like, imagine having Terry, like, maybe Ken knows, having Terry Silver as your boss, if that's who Big T is, you never know.
Yep, exactly. And then there's also Colonel Michael says Colonel Dugan must return and team up with Kreese and Barnes and get revenge on Silver. Oh, I'm not going to turn that down. And is there any chance in this universe that Michael Ironside would make an appearance?
I hope so.
I
don't
hope
know.
so.
I mean, he was in Nobody recently. I watched that, and he was great in that. He was what's his name's boss, I think, and he was great. I was like, is that Michael Ironside? He looks so different these days. He just looks very different. But I love him. He's an awesome actor, and he would be great if they brought Dugan back. Like, and I know I'm not a huge Next Karate Kid fan. Like, I've only watched a little bit, but any more characters that they can bring from the actual Miyagi storyline would be awesome, and it would be really cool to have him. I don't know if you agree, Chris.
No, I do. I'm just from Michael Ironside. I think more Michael Ironside in things today is that's ideal. I think just for everyone. I'm not I don't hate the Next Karate Kid. I don't love the Next Karate Kid. It's there. I watch it. It's part of whenever I watch all the movies, I watch it.
Yeah.
I don't particularly think Dugan is any sort of a scene stealing villain or anything like that. He's kind of a par for the course type of character as in terms of how he's written, but I just love Michael Ironside in general. So I always have had a little bit of an affection for Colonel Dugan, obviously nowhere near the level of Terry. Well, because that's it's Terry. But I would love to see if they could incorporate him, even just for the novelty of like,
Yeah.
it's Colonel Dugan on a hit Netflix series.
Right.
Come on, that would be wild.
But here's the thing. Let me ask you this, Chris, about Colonel Dugan. I'm hear you on all that stuff about how he was written and everything like that. But if the current crew behind Cobra Kai, the current creative team behind Cobra Kai were to write Colonel Dugan for this series, I mean, Michael Ironside, that would be a force of a character, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, recontextualizing
Yes.
Colonel Dugan within
Yes.
within the kind of the big threes kind of
Yes.
way they approach these characters.
Yes.
Sign me up. Sign me up. Like,
Yes.
come on, let's do it. Like,
do it.
and like if they're not thinking about this, like I'd be shocked if
They
they're not
have to be,
thinking
right?
about-
Right.
They have to be.
Yeah. We've got some other great ideas. NASA
No,
says
they've
I
already
would
been
want
included. That doesn't mean everyone will be included, but
Uh-oh.
right.
I would love it.
Oh yeah, 100%. NASA says I would want to see more about Kim Sun Young. Absolutely. I hope we get to see some flashbacks with Kim Sun Young. I hope we get to see him for the first time.
Me too.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Captain Turner and Snake's TV series.
Is it just him laying in the pit of snakes
That's
for 12
great.
episodes?
Maybe he survived. You know, we don't know. He just
That would be a very dude. Imagine if he comes back as some type of super villain. Like imagine him. He survived the pit of snakes.
yep.
Captain Turner is Snake's father.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You heard it
I
here
love it.
first.
Yes, I love that.
There you go.
We got to get Snake back. Majestic Heroes. We should have Cole Kai. I am never going to argue with you on that. That would be great. Yeah, Cobra Kai spinoff Silver. Yes, indeed. Aloha Bama says, do you think we will get a Karate Kid 3 Barnes aftermath scene? So as we know, and I'm going to open this up to you guys, in Cobra Kai season 4, you know, they basically almost like the characters, they kind of didn't see each other for all that time. Like they didn't have like much interaction in between when we saw them. And I don't know if they would do the same thing with Mike Barnes. Something must have happened after that tournament. I don't know. What do you guys think? Are they going to fill that in? Chris, I'll start with you.
I don't know what you I don't know how you do that. But then again, you know, they managed to from episode 1 give us little extra fillers of the immediate aftermath of that crane kick to Johnny. So they could find all sorts of creative ways, I think, to maybe shoot little like scene fillers where it's like this isn't Mike Barnes clearly, but it's supposed to be the back of his head, and we're seeing a conversation happening with someone. I don't know. There's creative ways that they can do it and shoot around it, and hide actors' age and things like that. I would just really be interested to know, like, what's the car ride like on the way back from the tournament?
Yes.
Between, you know, I just want to see Terry and Barnes, and maybe they all carpooled, maybe Kreese. I want to see what the car ride back is like, and how do they all part ways? That's what I want to see.
Yes.
I wonder if Terry just sent him on a plane back home and said, "Get the heck out of here! You lost. Get out of here, buddy."
And charged him for it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You pay for your own flight home. Get out of here.
That is a very Terry move, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't win, so he didn't keep up his side of the bet. Get on the plane, buddy. Here's the bill. Dynatox isn't paying for that.
Yes.
No
Oh, Michael says Colonel Dugan's anger matches with Barnes and Kreese. Yes. Jay Wiggins says my favorite thing about Karate Kid 4 is that it was set in Boston, where I'm from. I'm also from the Boston area. Miyagi was in Boston Bowl. That's great. Let's see. Darkest Hour. What about Walter Goggins returning as the big bad? Because he was actually under Ned in Karate Kid 4. Walter Goggins, I forget his character's name. I'm sorry, Walter. You're probably not watching, but he played that character, and I mean, he's an amazing actor.
He's amazing, dude. He's in a lot of stuff, and he's in was Justified. He was in that. I mean, he's like an awesome actor. He's in a lot of stuff, but he is awesome actor. He'd be great.
Yeah, it would be it'd be amazing to have him back, and he's part of the Miyagi-verse officially, so that's kind of cool. Young Miyagi should be a series. Season 1 is about Miyagi in Okinawa. Season 2 is Miyagi in the 442nd. I mean, that could be a very epic series. I mean, if you think about it, because we don't know what happened and how he won the Medal of Honor. And Peter from Cobra Kai Companion podcast, he made a whole video about Miyagi, kind of filling in the blanks. And that's amazing, like what you have to do to get a Medal of Honor. And that would be amazing to see, I think.
Yeah, that would be cool. I
Yeah.
think you guys said it. I think the key to that series, like that could be very successful, but you need the right actor.
Right.
And if you find the right person, that could be very, very successful. And I would love to see that, because Miyagi is such a cool character that you don't really know that much about him. I mean, you see the newspaper clippings and what people say, but it is tough to actually fill in those blanks. And I think this would be so cool to actually show some of the things that made him into the person that he was. And he's sort of like this mysterious person, even though we do know a lot about him. It would be really awesome to see some of those scenes. I would sign me up, man. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw this question to you, Chris. Did John Kreese immediately become homeless after Mike Barnes lost the tournament?
Yeah, they go back to the dojo. Terry just hands him all his stuff. Get out. Hit the bricks.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's again, that's another one where it's like the timeline of everything. You know, I would love it if they would kind of just lay out an entire sequence of events. This way we know exactly what happened and when, and the immediate aftermath of everything that happened in Karate Kid 3. Yeah, I would be very curious to see if Terry was very quick and to just dismiss John, or if maybe his anger was more towards Mike, or if, you know, maybe his anger was just towards everyone.
Right.
And he just went on a toxic waste dumping spree the next day, just spewing it all over the place, just throwing those yellow Cobra Kai t-shirts into the toxic waste.
I love it.
That's great. It's so
love it.
perfect. It's so perfect.
Oh man.
Invisible Observer. Thank you. Walton Goggins played Charlie. Thank you. Yes,
Charlie.
That's the name of the character. Wonderful. Wayne says the only character we're about 100% not getting back is Dutch. Yes, we talked a little bit about that before. Chad Queen has said no too many times now. And the only glimmer of hope is that Ben had said earlier that Instagram post was deleted. So maybe that means something, maybe it doesn't. But you're right, he has said no a number of times. Majestic Hero Prince says, I have a brother that has the same mannerisms as Terry Silver. Well, Majestic Hero Prince, be careful. Be careful.
Watch out.
Do you trust your brother? Is he making toxic waste deals?
Make sure he's keeping up with his medications.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, indeed. Bryce says, I don't think Dugan should be in the Cobra Kai show because he has nothing to do with Cobra Kai. He has to do with the Alpha Elite. So maybe there should be a separate series about stopping Dugan. Yes, that's true. Now,
Interesting.
if you've seen, I made a video on whether Terry Silver and John Kreese know Colonel Dugan. It's a speculative video, and go check it out. But in that, I speculate that Colonel Dugan has already appeared in Cobra Kai, that he was actually in the cages with John Kreese and Terry Silver in the POW camp. And he was the one who actually looked very shaken up after he basically killed his comrade over the pit of snakes. That's an idea, but there might be something to it. So he might actually be tied in, maybe more than we realize. I don't know.
Yeah. And you should go watch that video if you guys haven't seen it. It's really good. Ken did an awesome job on that one. But I like the idea that you could be there. That would be really funny. And I would
Easter
like
egg
it.
of all Easter eggs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and like you know that they would pull that out at exactly the right moment and be like, oh yeah, there he was, right there in the cage. He's known them this whole time. They've, you know, that would just be incredible if they managed to incorporate him like that.
Do you think, is it too much of a coincidence though?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think, I don't know. I have such goodwill for the creators and for this show that I'll give them that coincidence. But I don't know. That may be a bit too much for others. And
Right.
I would totally understand.
Right. Maybe because he's not a well-known character as
Right.
much. People
Yeah.
wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say I'm with you on that. I believe Dugan was with Kreese and Silver. Lupo Music says it's actually one of my favorite videos. In my mind, I believe the guy in the cage is Dugan. It's canon. It is. Okay. That's cool.
Man,
Yeah.
you guys didn't know that Colonel Dugan was was Tori's father? I mean, and also you guys didn't see that? And and also Miguel's dad? I thought that was common knowledge, guys.
Well, it's funny because at Paley Fest, with John, Josh, and Hayden made the joke about Colonel Dutch Dugan. So that's actually Dutch's
Oh
father.
no.
Yeah, so that's great.
Oh man.
This time next year we're gonna be discussing whether or not Amanda cheats on Daniel with Colonel Dugan, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. And actually is the father of every young character.
Yeah.
That usually it was Terry, now it's Mike Barnes,
Yeah.
and it'll be Colonel Dugan.
Oh man.
Robert says Dugan is the phys ed teacher at West Valley High right now. Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Jay says, what if Terry played up being afraid, knowing Kreese would take the risk for his life? You mean, back in the POW camps? Yeah, I think that would be something that a psychopath might do. If you believe Terry Silver is a psychopath, he would absolutely do that to manipulate someone.
Yes.
So if he knew that he could get Kreese to jump in, he would do that.
So what Jay's saying is he's playing the long con, like the longest of cons, like a 50-year con here is what we're talking about. And I like that because, man, and then he knew that there was some connect. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
The longest of cons, Jay. I like that.
Drew's like, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Looks like Chris might have had some internet trouble. Maybe we'll get him back in a second. But this is fun stuff, Drew. Like, I wonder if the writers room for Cobra Kai sat down just one day and just had fun brainstorming about all these possibilities of characters they could bring in and how they could fit into the series and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we say this a lot, but first and foremost, like yes, it's a job to them, but they are fans first and foremost. And I think they'll be the first to tell you that, right? A lot of the interviews, like it's so clear that they understand what they're doing. And they treat it with sort of the respect and reverence that a fan would. It's not done in a cheesy way. Like they know what they're doing. And I think we've talked a lot about this where we said, sometimes people approach things, it's like a job, right? So they're just, not that there's not passion behind it, but there's a different kind of passion. And
right.
These guys, I mean, the big three and everyone associated with the show, they have so much respect for the material and the fandom and the community that they're really fans for first and foremost. And you can tell it really shows through in everything that they're doing. And like, I can imagine them being in the writer's room, just like thinking about all the cool stuff they could do with Terry and trying to stay true to the character and all that stuff. I mean, I'm very thankful to them for giving us such an awesome series and something that really is what you would want from these characters. Like, I can't say that enough. Like, this could have gone south so easily, and it could have been cheesy and it could have been bad, but it wasn't, and it's not. And it's something that you really can say, man, this is a great show, and I gotta thank them for everything that they're doing. So
yeah, me too. Well, just amazing work, guys. Just genius work.
Yeah.
Chris, good to have you back.
Hey, Chris.
I'm going to throw you this one from Cinema Fan 97. If there was going to be a Mike Barnes spinoff, would you want it to take place in the present day, or would you want it to take place before Karate Kid 3?
Well, that's tough. If it takes place before Karate Kid 3, obviously we can't have Sean Kanan. And that would almost be as sacrilege as having a Terry Silver spinoff and not having Tig be involved. I wonder how they could do that. If they could cast maybe a dead ringer for a young Mike Barnes and then have it be kind of like cut between a flashback and a present day, that type of thing, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But I would be really interested in what type of backstory they could come up with for Mike. And you've speculated a lot about his backstory, Ken, in the videos you've done on Mike. I'd be very interested to see what they could come up with. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd be very interested, but Sean Kanan would have to be involved pretty heavily, I think, in order for that to get the kind of traction.
Yeah, I'd love for Sean Kanan to be involved in something like that.
What if it was both? What if it was like interweaved between present day Sean Kanan and then a younger Sean Kanan, similar to what they did with, you know, the Kreese and Silver stuff? So you get the best of both worlds. Like that would be really cool because you could see the immediate aftermath of Karate Kid 3, but then you could also see sort of like the present day, whatever they're going to give us with where Barnes is. I mean, we still don't really know. That would be a really cool way to do it too.
Yeah, 100%. Man, listening to you guys talk, it makes me want this to happen now. We need a Mike Barnes series. I think we're going to need a series for every character. Peter from Cobra Kai Companion podcast says, I saw my Miyagi-Do Lotus after recording. I realized there was a discussion about Miyagi I needed to tune into. Yeah. And it's honestly, this discussion about spinoffs and the Miyagi-verse, it's probably just the beginning. I'm wondering if we're going to be seeing this going forward. Like we're going to see hints of what might be coming. But it's kind of fun to speculate right now. Yeah. If there was one thing, Drew and Chris, if there was one project, let's call it a spinoff project that you would want to see, what would it be?
That's so hard.
You go first, Chris. I can't answer. I know my answer, but you go first.
Okay, well, the thing that's been in my mind since season 3 has been the young Kreese and young Terry spinoff, and just get Barrett, Carnahan, and Nick Marini to just suit up and go to town with that. I would love to see the very origins of Cobra Kai, but the other side of the coin would be seeing the origins of Miyagi-Do. So I'm kind of split. Maybe they can do both in one series, the origins of both, and have it be kind of the yin and yang.
Ooh,
that could be interesting.
I love it. Drew, what would you like to say?
All right. No, I have a serious answer and I have a serious answer.
Okay.
So my first serious answer is what Chris said, a young Kreese and Silver. Like that to me, like you've already seen the actors, they're awesome. They've already proven that they could do it. The writing for those flashbacks has been awesome, and that's been really cool. But my other serious answer that I want is, God, I need a Terry Silver running Dynatalk show. Like I need it. I just need this in my life. And I need to know him in the boardroom, him in his staff meetings. What are his town halls like? I need to see him as a motivational company leader. And I need to see him with his staff at his house. And I need that in my life. So please, if there's anyone listening, please give me the show. Please.
You know, I think all of what your guys are saying is right. I love it. True. I think that last one, I would love to see that too.
I need it.
Yeah. I love the origins of Miyagi-Do. I love the origins of Cobra Kai would be fantastic. Maybe if Kim Sun-young pops up this season, that could be an interesting thing. But I agree. Seeing Terry Silver as a Dynatalk CEO would be incredible. And, you know, selfishly, if I got the chance to do Cobra Kai, that would be a spinoff that I would love to do too. But yeah, Terry Silver and John Kreese in Vietnam would be incredible, I think. So Peter says, I'm listening, Drew.
Thank you. Please, yes. Peter, if you have any pull with the big three, please tell them what we said, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them.
Let's see. Robana saying under Dynatalks edition. Yes, that's great. Terry Silver goes undercover at McDonald's. I love that. That's great, guys. Kate says, I would love to see that moment when Miyagi stood in the center of town and proclaimed his love for Yukie, then having him leave in the cover of darkness and how he ended up in Hawaii. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Kate. I love that thought.
That's good.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Everyone, I want to point you to Drew's podcast, the Last Row podcast. Check out, it's Predator Month, but they have done so many movies. Everyone check out the Last Row podcast. It's in the description. I also have Chris Maffei's YouTube channel in the description, and he's going to have lots of cool stuff coming out in the future, right? Like Cobra Kai covers and stuff like that.
Yes. I can't wait to get started. I actually may be working on something this weekend. So something will be here sooner or later.
That's fantastic. So definitely check out, follow Chris, see what he's doing, follow Drew in the Last Row podcast and see what they're up to next. There's always something exciting around the corner. And then if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit subscribe and follow all of us, and that will help us to produce more great content in the future. And thank you all for watching. And the next KenCast will actually be tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to try to do a live stream every day, all the way to the premiere of Cobra Kai. The big one is going to be the marathon live streaming event on Thursday, leading up to the release of Cobra Kai. So mark your calendars, get your Coors Banquets, and get ready, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys there too. And Drew, Chris, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Ken. And thank you to everyone for all the awesome comments. This has been so fun. I have a blast every time I'm on here. It's an honor. And especially being on here with both you and Chris, you guys are awesome. It's so great to see everyone in the chat. Thank you guys so much. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks again, Ken. I'm really sorry that I was so late. But yeah, I had to get on even just for a little bit, because I had such a blast the past few times. So yeah, always happy to come back.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm glad that you're able to come on, Chris. And thank you again, Drew, for coming on. And we look forward to seeing you next time on KenCast.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next time on KenCast.